The Cleveland Browns have been a struggling team ever since the beginning of the Super Bowl era, with them having a few good seasons here and there, but for the most part they have been one of the worst teams in the NFL that have struggled to even go positive. But that has all changed recently, as with some good draft picks and a hiring of coach Kevin Stefanski, the team is looking so much better and even a threat in the AFC to possibly dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs and reach the Super Bowl. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Browns' rise to becoming one of the best teams in the NFL, and if I believe they can possibly reach the Super Bowl this season. What's up, everybody? It's AC Analysis, and today I'm going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns' rise to becoming one of the best teams in the NFL, and how far I feel like they will go in the 2021 NFL season. We all have these memories of the Browns being one of the worst teams in the NFL, the laughingstock, the team that would always draft a top-tier quarterback that would end up being an absolute flop. The organization was a mess, and I was shocked that in a span of like 3-4 years they were able to change the team from one of the worst in the NFL to one of the scariest in the NFL. And last season they even reached the AFC Championship game. Today's video will be very similar to my previous video, which was about the Browns' division rivals, the Baltimore Ravens. You guys should check that video out. But you guys may have noticed that most of my team-related videos have been about teams in the AFC North, besides the New England Patriots. And that is because the North is a powerhouse division with really strong contending teams that I can make really good content out of. But before we get into this video, if you guys can take 1 second to like and subscribe towards my channel, it would be really helpful. We just reached 100 subscribers. And if you guys want to shout out, make sure to comment down below. And now, let's get into the video. Anyone who has been a football fan any time before the 2019 NFL season would understand what I'm talking about. And that is that the Browns were a horrible drafting team. They kept getting really early picks in the draft with their horrible records, and then drafting quarterbacks who were expected to be franchise changers that turned out to be absolute busts. And some can say that it's just bad luck, but with this many coincidences with quarterbacks drafted such as Justin Gilbert, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, Brandon Weeden, you have to think that one, their drafting is god-awful because they have missed a ton of bad signs in quarterbacks, such as the story of Johnny Manziel and how he wasn't a fit quarterback to play in the NFL. But it's also because they were really bad at working with new rookies and getting them to play well. They did not have a single good first-round draft pick until recently, where they acquired quarterback Baker Mayfield, who seems like he could be the future. When Baker Mayfield was drafted with the first overall pick in the 2018 draft, Browns fans were not that excited, and that is because Baker wasn't deemed the best quarterback in that draft class. There were better quarterbacks at that time. There was Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, there was Lamar Jackson, and some other quarterbacks that people wanted to have on their team, Sam Darnold too. But Baker Mayfield was the one selected, and at the time it did seem like a bad pick, because after the 2019 NFL season, in which the Browns had so much talent around them and they had so much expectations, Baker threw for 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 22 interceptions. People were already deeming him a bust, even though it was only his rookie season, so obviously something had to change. The fact that the Browns only went 6-10 with all the talent around them was kind of concerning towards what coaches they had. So at the end of the 2019 NFL season, they fired their former head coach Freddie Kitchens and hired their 18th head coach in their history, Kevin Stefanski, who was a former offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. And boy, was it a good idea. The team started off hot in the 2020 NFL season, in the first 8 games going 5-3, and ending off the season with a playoff spot. Now, the Browns did make a solid run in the playoffs, but they lost in the divisional round to the KC Chiefs in a close battle. But just the fact that the Browns in one season were able to go from 6-10 all the way up to an 11-5 team that reached the playoffs is incredibly impressive and shows a really bright future ahead for the strong and young team. The rookies played really well in the next season, as Mayfield didn't even throw half of the amount of interceptions as the previous year, and their formerly drafted Nick Chubb became one of the best running backs in the NFL, along with Kareem Hunt from the KC Chiefs, who have formed together one of the most deadliest backfields in the NFL. And people would assume that the passing game for the Browns would really be the strength, because they have Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, two former superstar wide receivers, but Odell got injured last season and Landry wasn't playing his best. It was the backfield that was carrying that offense, along with the super strong offensive line that we can't forget about, with some of the best players in the league like Joel Bitonio, J.C. Tretter, Jack Conklin, all Pro Bowlers. But an offense is not the only thing that the Browns have. They also have a really strong and young defense, with former #1 draft pick Myles Garrett solidifying the defensive line with newly signed Jadeveon Clowney on the other end. That will be deadly with Garrett and Clowney. And then they also have a great secondary with players like Denzel Ward, John Johnson, Anthony Walker. They are a solid team that are all young and they have time to improve, and they can become, honestly, within the next few years, one of the best teams in the NFL. The future is really bright for these guys. Now, the Browns are in one of the more tougher divisions in the NFL, with the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers both being solid playoff teams in the NFL. So if they want to have a playoff spot, they're going to have to fight for it, but I really think that they are the best team in the division. I did just recently make a video about the Ravens, but looking at the Cleveland Browns roster and looking how they have only capitalized and improved their young roster from the previous season, I can't see them not being a playoff team unless they do a casual Browns thing and just manage to lose it all. But looking at their schedule, they do have to play 2 games against the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, which is going to be tough. And they also have some other tough games, like against the Packers, and I'm assuming against the Patriots, hoping that they're good. But honestly, I see them being a solid team that ends up going 11-5 or 10-6, winning the division and making the playoffs. And for how far they go in the playoffs, I can't really assume that because I don't know how other teams are going to play. But I think that if they do everything right, they could be a team that can really match the Kansas City Chiefs. But of course, this is all an assumption. We don't really know how the Browns will be playing next year, but I have incredibly high hopes for them. Leave in the comments below how well you think they'll be playing and your thoughts on this video. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you guys want to shout out, make sure to comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.